How's that sound? Test, test. Good, great. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here today for a quick brown bag lunch and learn, Harvard for a nickel. My name is Abe Laydon, and I am honored to be chairman of the Board of County Commissioners. I'm in my 5th year of office here at the county, but for the next hour or so, I get to be your Harvard professor. So I do hold a Juris Doctor in Law from the University of Colorado and studied advanced negotiation at Harvard Law School before working as a partner in a large law firm for many years in South Denver. But I want you to imagine for the next hour that you've been accepted into the program for senior executives in state and local government at one of the world's foremost public policy institutes, the Harvard Kennedy School. So I was accepted this last year and had the opportunity to spend 3 weeks there this past summer, and I'm going to share a glimpse of the program with you. So it was immersive and experiential, so in many ways that task is somewhat impossible, but there are some incredible practical nuggets that I'm confident you'll be able to integrate into your leadership roles here in Douglas County. Of course, it did cost about a nickel for me to go, so if you would like that nickel, I've got a great little bag right here for you to grab if you'd like. But I'm also confident that we'll have a great discussion today, and you'll be able to integrate some of these. So, a little bit about the professors that I got to experience while I was out there, if you want to advance the slide. Got it? It's okay. This was Harvard, and then you don't need to see me, though. We'll go to the next one. These are some of the amazing folks we got to interact with. So David King, Marty Linsky, who authored this book, Leadership on the Brink. If you do not have an opportunity to participate with us longer than today, I do recommend that you pick up this book, Leadership on the Line by Marty Linsky, and you're welcome to thumb through it up here if you'd like. So we did have Marty. We had Juliet Kayyem, who worked with the president to manage the BP oil crisis, Dr. John Lee Yang, who is imprisoned in his quest to bring democracy to China, a former governor of Massachusetts, a Broadway legend by the name of Alton Fitzgerald White, who played Mufasa on Broadway, an individual named George Emlin, who was a renowned symphony conductor, who got us to all improve our voices and even sing a rendition of Lean on Me. Which we are going to do today. And then we all converged on Cambridge, of course, to get some more insights. I'm also a lawyer, so I teach by the Socratic method, so there's no lecture here. I will call on you by name. I'm hoping you're willing to get up out of your seats and do some things that maybe you aren't used to normally, but the idea is that it will benefit you in the classroom today. It's almost Halloween, so we're going to zip through 13 lessons at rapid fire pace. Like I said, it will be experiential. You may be blindfolded. You may be asked to share some real problems you've worked through in your role, and you might get rewarded with a full-size candy bar for being willing to participate. I hope nobody has nut allergies, but we do have full-size Reese's for anybody that wants that. So let's begin with introductions, and I'd like, if we could, in maybe 10 to 15 seconds, each person identify who they are and what they do. And we'll start right here. Wonderful. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Dan Dirtz. I'm the Director of Open Space and Natural Resources, and I've been working for Douglas County for over 18 years now.
Welcome.
Hey, I'm Will DeToma. I'm a Senior Business Analyst with Douglas County, and I've been with the county for over 5 years.
Great.
I'm Dan Avery. I'm a Special Projects Manager in County Administration, and right now my primary responsibility is managing our American Rescue Plan Act funds.
Great. And I'm going to stop for a second. Dan, and who was the first person that introduced themselves and what do they do? Who was the first person that introduced themselves and what did they do?
Laura C. Cody.
Yeah. What does she do?
She's with our mental health initiative.
Nicely done. Very good. Next.
This is bad. I'm Jeanette Baer. I'm one of the planning managers for the department. I've been with the county for close to 25 years, actually.
Outstanding. What does the person in front of you do? What's his name? Directly in front of you in a blue shirt.
Well, I know this person.
Yeah. I I know
He's
you
sort of
know
category-
Dan.
Well, that's
I started my
that's Dan
career here with
Dirksen.
Dan.
He's the Director of Open Space and Natural Resources. That was an easy one, thank you.
Outstanding. Man, our staff is awesome. Yeah.
I'm Fallon Simmons. I'm an epidemiologist with the health department, and I've been there since we opened our doors in July of 2021.
Wonderful. Who's the person right next to you on your right?
Jan, I was going to say Janet. Jan.
Close. Really good.
Jeanette.
Yeah. Next.
I'm Ted Knudsen. I'm retired now, but I was an environmental engineer and worked for consulting engineering companies for several of them in
Outstanding.
Colorado.
Hi, I'm Fran Santagata. I am retired in the Roxborough community, retired as a Homeland Security professional and your former emergency manager.
All right.
I'm tempted to pass because I feel like I'm going to fail a quiz here. I'm Catherine Woolley. I consider myself a professional volunteer within Douglas County. I'm a Public Works Commissioner for the town of Castle Rock. I'm on the school district's District Health Advisory Committee, and I'm also an alternate on the Board of Health of the new Douglas County Health Department, and here's the next person.
Welcome.
Well done.
What's my name? Oh, I haven't said it yet.
Future?
My name's Don McBrain. I'm a retired taxpayer. And I just recently sold my businesses, had about 325 employees.
I'm Kelsey, and I work with zoning compliance. I've been with the county about 3.5 years.
Awesome. Kelsey, who's the person just over to your left? Do you remember?
I don't remember your first name, but you're a professional. Oh, it's Catherine. She's a professional volunteer.
You guys are doing great. That's fantastic.
Katie Claiborne, Motor Vehicle Services Manager. I've been with Douglas County for about 2.5 years, but new to my current role.
Awesome. Welcome.
My name's Pete Smith. I live in Keene Ranch. I am also a taxpayer. Why is it you retire and you continue to have to pay taxes? So don't ask me who is who here because my memory sucks.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Right behind you? Thanks for being here, Pete.
I'm Barbara Drake. I'm the Deputy County Manager for Douglas County. I'm 14.5 years in with Douglas County. It's my second career. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. Boy, that microphone's passing really fast. Who's this gentleman?
My name is Doug. I'm in county administration. I work with Barbara.
Great. Welcome, Doug.
I'm Amy Fortner. I work in facilities, and I've been here for a little over a year.
Way to go, Amy. Amy, who's that person just over to your right?
Barbara.
Barbara. Very
Yes.
good. Do you remember what she does?
Yes, you were Deputy County Manager. Deputy County Manager, thank you. I've had County Manager, I forgot the deputy part. My apologies. Good to see you again, by the way.
Fantastic. Welcome, Amy.
Can I just pass it?
You're a free person. You're able to do whatever you'd like.
I am Holly Jacob. I work for the county in IT, and I've been here about 1.5 years.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Tracy Trestrail. I'm also working at the county in IT, and I've been here a bit over 2 years.
Great. Tracy, who's that person right in front of you in the blue?
In the blue?
Yes.
That's not right in front of me, though. So.
Well, how about you can choose? Do you remember either of those individuals? There you go. Fran, man, you guys are doing great. I just have to say you're doing way better than all of us did in Cambridge. So this is a really special group. We had a director of homelessness that worked with the New York Police Department that really struggled with this. And this was a difficult moment for him because the focus is so much on me and ego and who am I and oh my goodness, the microphone's coming to me. We have a hard time connecting with who else is in our surroundings and who is part of this experience. But so you guys are doing great.
My name's Chris Burnett. I'm with the health department and I do quality improvement there.
Awesome.
My name's Ben Ling. I'm the general partner of a private equity group.
Welcome, Ben. Ben, do you remember who's right in front of you?
A guy who works for the government.
I think we might know Ben's perspective here. That's great. Okay, good. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here. So listen, today is probably a little bit different, and the richness of a Harvard education is not necessarily the rigor which is there, but it's the fact that it is engaging, experiential, and an opportunity for you to really explore things maybe in a little bit, slightly different fashion than you have in the past. I'll share a little bit a story about what my son does in soccer right now. They're called the Werewolves with Real. And each of them, because it's close to Halloween, gets one of these masks. It's a little werewolf mask. And what I'm going to ask you to do today, you all shared a little bit about who you are and what you do. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is literally right in front of your face right now, take off your mask and your title and who you perceive your identity to be, and I want you to just focus on who you are as an actual anchored individual. So right now, let's just go to our faces, and let's just pull that off, everybody with me. Here we go, right here. We're gonna take that mask right off. Fantastic. So right now, we're gonna talk a little bit more about ourselves. I would ask you to share your challenges as well as your failures, not just your victories. And I'm gonna ask you, why are you actually here, and what do you want to do? And to help you figure out what you want to accomplish. So this is Marty Linsky, who's been a Harvard professor for many years, and he wrote this book, like I said, Leadership on the Brink. And I'm going to ask you, and maybe we'll start with Ben, is leadership on the brink?
I think it depends. It's called Leadership on the Line, not Leadership on the Brink.
Leadership on the line, but is leadership on the brink?
I think in certain areas it is. A lot of times there are situations where people are put in leadership roles that they don't have the background or competencies to handle. And because of that, they need to grow rapidly in the job, or the organization faces bad consequences because of that.
Yeah, that's great.
I think generally when people get put in those positions, they figure out a way to make it happen through leveraging people around them, which I think would be a good leadership attribute, or just really putting their nose to the grindstone and throwing their entire effort into whatever project's in front of them.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm here to share with you, so I sit in an elected official role, but we know that leadership can be exercised by anyone from anywhere. And we think about roles like Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King Jr., that were not necessarily elected to a higher office, but they took on causes that were deeply significant to them, and they took it to the next level. I'm really pleased that many individuals from our public health department are here because, for me, one example was COVID-19. I did not run on a public health crisis. That was not part of my platform when I campaigned. Yet we know that a few years ago, we were all thrown into managing a global pandemic on a local level. What I would say, and what Marty has shared with us, is that you're never exercising leadership unless you're experiencing resistance. And you don't know what you believe in until something you believe in is in conflict with something else you believe in. And for me during that time, and I think for a lot of you, it was the conflict between saving lives versus saving livelihoods, right? Adaptive work involves hard transitions, adjustments, and loss in people's lives. And I will share with you on a personal level, many of you know this, but I lost 5 people to suicide during COVID, all suburban males between the ages of 33 and 54. And I know I'm not alone. I mean, a lot of people lost people, and in my role, I know a lot of folks, but one individual in particular that I lost was my late father to a heart attack, not to COVID, because he believed, he believed it when the news told him not to leave the house and not to go to the doctor's office unless it was absolutely necessary. So, here I am in an elected leadership role, and it was up to our public health department at the time, Tri-County Health, to determine whether or not you were vaccinated or had masks or got to go home or go outside of your front door. A challenging circumstance, which reminded me that we have to customize our interventions so that they will be the most effective. And I'm deeply proud of those that represent our health department. And having our local health department is probably one of the most significant things I've had the opportunity to be a part of. The other big thing that you're going to hear about today is that it's so important to have people join you on this journey. So I'm very thankful in my role for the county, for our citizens, for the staff, and my fellow commissioners for linking arms with me, particularly during that COVID time. Later in the hour, we're going to be doing a couple of activities where we work together as teams. and think about how we can make a difference. So let's move on to the next slide. And this is where I want to begin with all of you. So each of you occupies a significant role. You're adults that have had an education and a time in the professional world. But I want to take you back to the beginning and have you ask yourselves, what is your question zero? So question zero is, what is your why, your statement of what you want to accomplish in 10 words or less. Laura Cinconi, what's your question zero?
Every person deserves health and happiness. So my why is to build a better future and a better life for those people.
It's beautiful. I think that was potentially under 10 too. What about the gentleman in pink in the back, Doug DeBoard? What's your question zero? And for those that have a piece of paper, this is a good opportunity for you to write down your question zero.
I think I'd like to think my why is the other, just period.
Ooh, far less than 10 words. Very good. Very good. What about Barbara Drake, right in front of you?
My why is leaving the world a better place than it was when I entered it, and my family, especially right now, in our family, being there for my grandkids.
It's phenomenal. So many of you work for the county and are already in public service, and I knew through my experience that I am the most blessed man in the world to be able to work with many of you, like Doug and Barbara, and we've experienced that question zero together in a variety of formats. Once you have your question zero, you need to develop your theory of change. So it's your if-then statement of, if you do X, then Y will result as it relates to your question zero. And then in addition to your theory of change, you need that group of people. So never go at it alone. We talked a little bit at Harvard about a scrum. Does anybody know what a scrum is? What is it, Fran?
So it's a focused group of individuals who have a very specific goal in mind, and they work as a very tight team.
Correct. So think about who is your scrum in your life, those couple of individuals that you can gather together to accomplish your why, your question zero, through that theory of change. For me, my scrum is in this room. A lot of folks, I look at Caroline and Holly and Troy and Doug and Barbara. When I decided to form the Douglas County Wildfire Initiative to ensure that properties and people were preserved and protected from wildfires, that's not something that I could do on my own, but we know the number one threat potentially affecting Douglas County is the threat of wildfires. So I'm looking in the back at Holly Carroll, who facilitates our Douglas County Wildfire Initiative. And fast forward to today, and through Holly's leadership and the work of many others, we now have actually the top aerial support of any county in the entire state, and Fran sits on that board. So Fran is part of my scrum, and I'm very thankful for that. We're continuing to protect property and people, but it also goes to things like an in-kind match, where if you're a real property owner, you get a contribution from the county for mitigating your densely forested land. That's a program that we're extrapolating out to the state through the State Forest Health Council, and it was birthed in our Douglas County Wildfire Initiative. So that's an example of my scrum. But moving on to the strategic triangle and asking that question of, does what you do matter? So many of you ask that question around, what is your question zero? And I'm going to ask you to consider, does that question zero matter? Is that something that is going to make a difference from your own perspective in terms of what is valuable? When we talk about the strategic triangle, it's strategy and public management is a dynamic effort focused on getting and aligning value, capacity, and support to create public value. So it's really first identifying, is there public value in your question zero and the thing that you are actually trying to accomplish? Then you go to operational capacity. Are there the resources in place to accomplish that public value? And then is there legitimacy and support? So I'll tell you, in my role as county commissioner, we have almost a $700 million budget. We're executive, legislative, and judicial. So for us, we get a lot of requests. And I'm looking at Laura Cinconi. We get requests for the mental health initiative and for the co-responder teams. In my brain as a commissioner 5 years in, I think of exactly these three things. Is there public value in having co-responder teams? Absolutely. The number of diversions that we get out of our hospitals and out of jails is tremendous. Do we have the operational capacity and the resources? Well, Barbara Drake and Laura have found ARPA funds, grant funding, state partners, ways to avoid us ever going into debt. By the way, this county is debt-free, has a balanced budget. Fantastic. That's in large part due to what Doug DeBoer does as county manager, bringing forth a budget that reflects those fiscal principles. But again, we have to then go to legitimacy and support. Is there support among the citizens I represent, and it's almost 400,000 at this point, for having a CRT, for having a mental health initiative? I'll just say, my first year as commissioner, I got to do a ride-along with the co-responder team, and I'm in the back of a Suburban, and we pull up to a home in Parker, where a young man was drinking himself to death, had a bottle of whiskey, and his dad had called and said he is going to die in this apartment. So I'm riding in the back of this Suburban, pull up to the apartment, and they say, "No, Commissioner, you're going up." And I'm thinking, I'm just going to sit in the back in a suit. And it's like, no, you're going to go up and experience this. And so firsthand, with my own eyes, got to sit with this individual and be a fly on the wall and watch an expert in behavioral health engage with this young man, with law enforcement paired, having that conversation, making sure things didn't get unsafe. And that gentleman was taken to the care that he needed so that his issues could be addressed in a positive way instead of being taken to a hospital and then being really let out in a matter of hours. So for me, when I think about that strategic triangle, there's value, operational capacity, and legitimacy in the role of the co-responder team. So I want you, as you're thinking about that question 0, to identify that strategic triangle and determine whether or not those three particular items are in place. So let's move on to David King's emphasis around a power wheel. Has anybody heard that concept of a power wheel before? So we're talking a lot about teams and how we work together well in our scrum. So a power wheel is mapping institutions, identifying people, making contact, and repeat. And the primary function of your power wheel, when you're thinking about your question 0, is who are the people and the organizations and the institutions that can help you accomplish your goals? So Dan Avery is really significant in our county, handles a lot. I mean, I don't know how many special projects you have going on at the moment. But Dan, who would you say is on your power wheel? And while Dan is doing that, I would ask you to write that down. You're going to take these papers home with you so you can remember some of this. But who's on your power wheel? Dan?
Probably the commissioners in a decision-making capacity around those projects, and then any number of staff that implement those special projects. I help coordinate them, but certainly rely on staff to implement them.
Yeah. Are there outside organizations that are part of your power wheel?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Like what?
The Community Foundation is one that I've partnered with recently as we're bringing forward a fundraising effort for the Kendrick Castillo Committee.
Yep. That's a perfect example. Do you have a nut allergy?
I do not.
All right, good. This is for you. Happy Halloween. Good job. Who else? Power wheel. Catherine, who's on your power wheel?
I'm writing a lot of them down, but a big portion of my power wheel was about bridging the gap in the community. So a lot of that comes from various nonprofits that we have within the community, from art, especially with youth, with the school district. I get to say, because I'm not an employee, but I'm sure you guys could say too, but the Republican Party, the Democrats, the unaffiliated, a value of mine is bridging the gap and bringing all those different voices together to make my power wheel.
Outstanding. Do you have a nut allergy?
I do not.
All right. Fantastic. So we're going to move on to the next exercise. We've talked a little bit about question 0, your strategic triangle, and your power wheel, and I would encourage you to continue to think through those things and write them as we're walking through this. But let's move to the next slide. So this is a balcony, and a big thing that Marty Linsky talks about is getting to the balcony of your life. The cleanest way for an adversary or an organization to bring you down is to let yourself bring yourself down in your organization. He often says you don't have to repress your humanity, but what you do have to do is go to the balcony of your life to get the correct view. He talks a little bit about humility, which is very important. That's very important in my role on a day-to-day basis. And he talks about the fact that to believe you have inherent power is a trap, both for you and for them. And in ancient Rome, the emperors had a man stand close to them at all times whose job was to remind them of their mortality. So today this is going to be our balcony, and oftentimes you guys will see me seated right there. I don't believe I have inherent power. I have power that has been given to me by the people, and I usually say, you're my boss, not the other way around, and I have to always keep that in mind. So I imagine when I'm up there that there is somebody right next to me, just like in ancient Rome, reminding me of my mortality and my humility at all times, and that I'm here to be a servant of the 400,000, again, not the other way around. So what we're going to do is an activity, and I hope you're willing to do this. This requires a bit of authenticity and transparency and goes back to what we did earlier in terms of taking off our masks. So do I have a volunteer to go to the balcony? Fran? So Fran, follow me. I'm going to take you to the balcony, and we're going to leave Fran at that seat, and I'm going to take you up here. So welcome to the balcony. Watch your step. Okay.
I've never been up here before.
Well, welcome. Anybody who wants to come up can. This is your dais, not mine. It's the people's. So Fran is over there. I want you to, now from the balcony of your life, who is that person in that seat? Who's the Fran in that chair?
Well, interesting that I volunteered for this because I'm in a transition in my life. I retired a year and a half ago, and I would have defined myself almost exclusively by my career, which was Homeland Security, keeping the nation safe, keeping my community safe, ensuring that my family was safe, looking over the next horizon for what the next crisis or threat might be. But now I'm retired. I no longer am in a position where I can impact that tremendously. It's more about helping to garner the next round of folks that are going to step into the role that I was in to make sure that they are supported, that they are empowered to take on that role. Because I honestly believe one of the things, I saw that role happening, right? So I moved myself into the balcony, probably the last 2 years of my career, and looked around me to say, who's going to pick up the mantle when I leave? Mm-hmm. Because I always saw the world a little bit differently than other folks in my office. In emergency management, I was the one looking for the red herring, right? I was not the one looking for just the wildfire. And it often ran against the grain of some of the folks that I worked with and for, because some of the stuff I did was probably more expensive with maybe less return. However, on that bad day, like with a public health emergency, if we weren't prepared and hadn't done our due diligence, the disaster was going to be really astronomical and impactful. So now it's really important to continue to grow with this expanded wheel that I have, which is different than the wheel that I had a year and a half ago.
You have an expanded power wheel.
I do.
And because of your experience, you know who Fran is. You've been to the balcony.
Yes, I have.
Thank you for being our first volunteer.
It's a humble,
it's humbling.
Humbling.
It really is. Let's give Fran a round of applause. Fran, I know you don't have nut allergies, right?
No.
Okay, I'm going to give you some Reese's on your way.
I'm a very happy husband when I come home.
Well, it's full size or nothing at my house, so here you go.
Thank you.
Is anybody else willing to go to the balcony? Dan Dirt's the answer? You and I have known each other a while. Let's go up to the balcony together.
Yes, sir.
If you're willing.
Of course.
All right. So you're coming out of your seat. How long have you been at the county?
18 years.
18 years. Who is that guy, Dan Dirts, over there?
Well, he's really good looking, first of all. So a little overweight.
No doubt.
He's working on that, though. I would say that somebody that cares about his community, cares about being part of his community, cares about others, and constantly looks to try to do the right thing.
Yeah. What do you think is that thing that others see that you don't see sitting in that chair? When you see Dan Dirts out there, what is the thing that you continue to look for that others might see that you're not seeing right now?
I think at times you just have to give yourself some credit. I think I don't give myself enough credit sometimes. So yeah, I think there's some affirmations that I could look towards in others that I might not see myself.
I'm going to tell you, having known you for, gosh, it's almost a decade now, I would say.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. Nobody is more serving of our community and more dedicated to the things that happen to our citizens than Dan Dirts, and we've got a lot of great people here, and I hope you do take more credit.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's give Dan a round of applause.
Thank you.
Good job. So it's an important exercise, and I hope that you all take the opportunity in your own free time to just go to the balcony of your life and think about who you are and how other people perceive you, because I think it's very easy, absolutely, to get in your own head and stuck in your role. And the difference that Marty reminds us of is to anchor in your own, in yourself versus your role. So, another issue that he talks about is handling attacks. So, reacting defensively to the literal substance of personal attacks colludes with the attackers by perpetuating the diversion. This avoidance mechanism almost always succeeds simply because it's so natural to take a personal attack personally. Failing to distinguish role from self can also lead to neglect in terms of the proper levels of role defense and role protection. So when you do go to the balcony and think about how others perceive you, I want you to pursue that question zero and that strategic triangle devoid of ego. And what I mean by that is, in my role, I get dragged or praised all day, every day on Twitter by thousands of people. If I really thought about all of those different public perceptions, it'd be tough to go to sleep at night. I sleep 8 to 9 hours every night because what I do, and it may work for you or may not, but for me, I take my ego, put it in this bowl, put it in a jar, let other people do exactly what they want to it all day. Because I know they're not coming after me personally, it's about an idea that I represent, and Marty and David talk about that a lot. When you are in a leadership role, people will attack you, particularly when you're on the target. When you're right on the center of something, people may not be pleased with that. We've taken a pretty active role in the homeless initiative, where for us it's important to get to functional zero and reclaim our public spaces. There are those in the Denver metro area that aren't thrilled with what we're doing, and so we hear positives and negatives all day. My focus is to do the next right thing, put my ego in a jar, let people do what they want to it, and focus on that why. And my why is I want to get to functional zero. The other thing I want to suggest to you, and this is really important, and you probably haven't heard this, find your sanctuary. So Marty talks a lot about this in his book. He was a representative and then a Harvard professor for many years. You have to have that place and that space in your life where you can rest and refresh and recover from what you do. There are those that work nonstop, round the clock, all day, every day, and the next thing that happens is what? Burnout, exactly. So to avoid that burnout, find that sanctuary in your life. Does anybody have a sanctuary that they want to share? Yes, Jeanette? Yeah?
My sanctuary is Jesus Christ.
Love it.
I think my involvement with fellow believers during the week and working with kids and missions, that's what recharges me and part of it.
I love that. That's a great answer. Faith can be a massive component of how we find our sanctuary and recover. That's one for me. Another one for me is the gym. I like to work out, and when I'm lifting really heavy weights, it's tough to think about some of the challenges I'm facing. Anybody else with a sanctuary? Fran? Oh.
Especially post-COVID, I think that really focused us on having that sanctuary at home.
Yeah.
Not everybody had it, but certainly having my husband with me during that crisis made it breathable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You weren't constantly on edge because you had each other in support.
Correct. Well, if you have an opportunity on your paper that you're taking home with you, you're not turning it in for a grade, y'all get A pluses just for showing up, write down what your sanctuary is and try to remember that as you're going through your day. The next slide, if we can go to it, this is Thompson Island. So part of our experience at Harvard was to be removed from the classroom and taken into a wooded area, forested area, where we were blindfolded in a group of about 10. And we had to find particular markers within this wooded area without sight. So one thing that we talked about before we went to Thompson Island is there's usually 3 types of people. You're a people person, you're a purpose person, or you're a process person, right? Does everybody know the distinction? Okay, so what I'm gonna have you do is everybody stand up, and I want you to divide yourselves into those 3 categories. So if you're a people person, I want you up here with me. If you're a purpose person, let's come over here. And if you're a process person, let's go kind of near our awesome reporter, Ellis, from Community Media. So people person right here, and then purpose to my right, and process in the back. And I know some of you are all 3 or maybe 2. What's your top? Oh, this is well divided. This is good. These are my people. Oh my goodness. Let's start with our people. What does it mean to be a people person?
For me, in the roles that I have as servant leadership, without ego and any personal intent, is truly to serve the people and be a voice when they don't feel like they have a voice.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. What about for our purpose individuals? Sir?
I think it's just looking, like I like to look at the big picture, and like I'm in the health department and I came there to try to help people, and it's the purpose for the health department is to help and give information. So I look at what the underlying cause of what they're doing.
The underlying cause, that purpose. What about, and we're all purpose here, okay, what about our process, folks, in the back? You want to share a little bit about process? What does process mean to you, Will?
So I'm a senior business analyst. Everything has to be process mapped out. It's just like ingrained in me. So you have to know what starts a process, what the steps are, what the decision points are, what finishes a process, and then of course any alternative process, exceptions. I can go on for hours, but that's what it means to me.
That's great. So I'm going to tell you, I really admire you because I am not a process person, and my staff wants to kill me daily because I'm people and I'm purpose. But how I get there, I'm not going to follow a map or a timeline. It's big picture. So when I was on Thompson Island in a blindfold, I had to get to a marker, and we had a plan in place. And the process was, let's all hear the sound of our voice to get to that marker. The marker had it was a texture on a stump. When we got to that stump, we'd line up by calling each other's names and radius out to the actual marker that we had to get back to. That was the process. When I put my blindfold on, I was about 200 feet out of bounds with a blindfold, and I didn't know where I was, and I could barely hear my teammates. So the people component and the purpose was out the window, and I had to absolutely rely on the process to get to the next step, which meant calling out to my teammates, connecting with them, and ensuring I was just, even though I was blind and a little disconcerted, trusting that the plan we had in place would work. So we're going to do an exercise, and I'm going to ask for one volunteer from each group to do that same blindfolded exercise. And we will have staff here to kind of help you out. But if you're willing, let's have one from each group, and you can self-nominate, or who would like to do that with us? Okay, we got Rodney from People. Who from Purpose? And then who do we have from Process? Tracy? Okay, so let's help Tracy with her blindfold. Everybody else can take their seats. Rodney, let's head to the back of the room. Staff will help give you a blindfold. Your teammate is Tracy. Tracy's in Process, so you're going to go to the back and make sure you can't see. And we've got Jeanette. All right, sorry about that. Well, let's head back to your teammates. Let's head over to your teammates. And staff is going to guide. They won't touch you, but they will make sure that nothing bad happens. So, yeah, we agree to. Okay, all right. So, Jeanette, and everybody else can take their seats as we watch the exercise. So here's what's going to happen. And before you can take your mask down real quick, you guys have about 1 minute to decide how you are going to help each other get to that marked podium that has the Douglas County logo on it in gold, okay? So I'm going to give you 1 minute. Jeanette, you're going to come back with your team.
Where are we starting?
So you're going to start right here. And Jeanette, this is Tracy and Rodney. You know these guys. This is your team. I'm going to give you guys 1 minute.
What, our team? This is our team?
This is your team. Yeah, you can say hi to each other. Give you 1 minute to figure out a strategy, how to get from there to that podium. And then after a minute, you're going to go blindfold. So don't blindfold yourself yet, Jeanette.
Yeah, okay.
When we call time, we're going to put our blindfolds on and see if you can get to your podium. Okay? Right. We'll give you about, correct, all three. Yep. So we'll give you about a minute. And who are our staff guides that are going to keep everybody safe here? So we've got Caroline. Who else? Miss Wendy. Okay, good. Okay, about 20 seconds. Okay, team, this is your scrum. And your objective is to get to the gold insignia podium. Are we ready? Is everybody blindfolded? Okay, here we go, and begin. I will tell you, this feeling of being blindfolded as an elected official was horrible, horrible. It's tougher when the chair's clear. You can call to each other.
I was going to say, should we fan out?
Okay, here, all right, we're going to capture it unless we pass it.
Is this the podium? I think we got it. Oh, come on over. Got it.
You got it. All right. Big round of applause. In a minute and a half. That is way better. What's that podium? Yeah. Nicely done. Nicely done. Guys, here's another one. Here you go. Nicely done. Nicely done. How did it feel to have those blindfolds on? Not great. Not great. I absolutely hated it. I think as an elected official, you want to be able to see, understand that purpose, and navigate. And when you're isolated and alone, it's tough. But Jeanette, any insights into what the plan was? What was your plan? Who was your leader? Well, you got to know the name. How did it feel? I noticed you were touching the chairs to get where you needed to go. You knew you could advance. How did it feel when you left the boundary of the chairs? Anybody, Rodney? You seem pretty confident. Were you confident? The people person trusted the people. There you go. I like that. Anybody struggle with the process, with the plan? Tracy, you were the process person. Did you come up with the process? Kind of. Okay, good. That was a struggle for me. And I know, where's Miss Wendy in the back? Wendy Holmes, our Director of Communications, process. Follows that process to a T. When I came back from Harvard, one thing I learned was the best way to work with Wendy Holmes, Put that process first and trust it. So working to areas that aren't your strengths are going to be good when you think about people, process, and purpose. But let's advance to the next slide. So a really cool experience that we got to have was experiencing Alton Fitzgerald White, who was Mufasa on Broadway. So he came in and opened by singing The Lion King, which I will not do. You'll benefit from that. But he shared a little bit about just your instrument and your communication style. So we're going to bridge from question 0 and your strategic triangle to how you actually communicate your message on a day-to-day basis. So a couple of traps to avoid. He talks about, first of all, being authentic. Being yourself. When you talk about frequencies between individuals, if two people are together, they are exhibiting a certain level of frequency, right? Whether it's love, hate, anger, frustration. What do you think resonates the highest when two people interact? Barbara Drake, say it. Correct. It's authentic. I would have thought love, right? Love would be the highest. When you are authentic and real with people, nobody wants a perfect presenter. If you are authentic and own your flaws, your challenges, and are real with people, that will resonate through the roof. So that authenticity is so important. Barbara, anything else on authenticity? Everybody can spot a fake, right? So it benefits you to just be yourself. Can you have those? You don't eat Reese's.
I'll find somebody. My husband.
Granddaughters. Okay, good. It's always easy to find somebody who likes a Reese's, right? So authenticity is really big, but when he was on Broadway, he talked a little bit about a few other traps to avoid. So up talk, I'm making a statement, but I'm not sure why I'm saying it, so it sounds like a question. Vocal fry, being super low and quiet. Breathing the wrong way encourages us to expand our ribs, the diaphragm, not the shoulders and chest, roll the shoulders back and down, shoulders in your back pockets. And then the 4 key elements of speech: pace, pitch, volume, tone. Pace, slow it down, say less, take pauses. That pitch, high versus low. Volume, loud is important, but quiet. Quiet is like, I'm letting you in on a secret, right? I'm letting you in on something that not everybody knows. And then tone, warm, bright versus cold. You have something very serious to say. So think about your pace, your pitch, your volume, and your tone. And of course, your intention. Think about how you want people to feel about the words you use. Your intentionality will change how you speak. So I want to move on to the next performer that we had, which was George Emlyn, a world-renowned conductor. And he talked a lot about conducting your chorus. So if we want to advance to the next slide here. There's George right there, and this is our class at Harvard. So we talked a little bit about singing. Singing empowers, replenishes, awakens, creates harmony in the world. Singing heals, singing relaxes boundaries. Singing offers you opportunities to be courageous. Singing can offer you the opportunity to find and then share your passion. And you don't need to be a singer. He talked about some of the technical items: vocal production, body awareness, health, your whole body as an instrument, your posture and breath, your vocal apparatus in terms of energy and resonance. Again, tone, color, is it dark, is it bright? Volume, articulation, and phrasing. But instead of just talking about singing, we're going to do it just like we did at Harvard. So I'm going to ask you all, do we have anybody that's been like a vocalist? We'll start there. Anybody been like a lead vocalist or a singer? Anybody? Oh, I just saw something go up. Are you? No? Yes? Okay. Next question. Have you ever sung in a group? Who's sung in a group before? Anybody? Tracy has. How have you sung in a group? What have you done?
I've sung in church choir.
Church choir? Fantastic. Have you sung in? Church choir. Church choir. Tracy? School choir. So how about Tracy, Fallon, and Jeanette? Jeanette, you just keep getting called on. Let's move to the Lean On Me lyrics. Yeah, the lyrics are right here. So you heard a little bit of it when we were at Harvard. So let's have the 3 of you come up here. Here we go. Let's give them a round of applause. Yay. It's easier to sing in a group, right? Your scrum, your group. So Tracy.
I really firmly believe anyone can sing, though. I think we
Exactly.
Oh, we're going to. We're all gonna sing. But you guys, the three of you, because you've been in your church choir and your school choir, help us out with just. It's not the whole song, but it's just this. So some time in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow.
Lean on me.
Good.
When you're not strong,
And I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. For it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Okay, full class. Let's all do it from the top. Here we go. Some times in our lives, full class, we all have pain. Let's go, guys. We all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow.
Lean on
Me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. Full class, come on. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. All right, give yourselves a round of applause. Nicely done. I should never sing, but the idea is we sing together and we do better as a group, right? Have that scrum, have that group you rely on, and you can do better and advance your goals in that way. So let's move on to the next slide here. So I want to talk about a couple of things. First of all, before we get to the BP oil spill, so we had Juliet Kayyem, who was working in the White House to manage the crisis of the BP oil spill. But it's tough to manage a really significant crisis if you play yourself small. So I want to start with something that Ron Ferguson, who's an MIT-trained economist, shared with us, is your self-perception and how that can limit or expand what you do. So why do we do what we do? Right? We want to feel belonging, power, competence, security. But being perceived as low status undermines all of these feelings. So in your role, I want you to see yourself as capable, competent, and able to accomplish that original question zero that you have. If you perceive yourself small, when you go to that balcony and say, that person can't accomplish those things that I've set out to do, that's the first challenge, right? Is perceiving yourself as large enough and capable enough to do what you were put on this earth to accomplish. So encouraging you to stop playing small and think about your own self-perception. I know growing up in my household, I was the first person in my family to go to college. I was the son of a journeyman electrician. I was going to Niwot High School where everybody had these $1 million homes and everybody's parents seemed like they really understood things, were very well off, and I was just struggling to get by. So for me, advancing forward was a challenge. But my scrum, the people in my life, my family, believed that I could go to college and succeed. And thankfully, because of their support and others, went on to law school. And now in a different role, being a county commissioner, it's really important for me to perceive myself as capable, but always remember my roots, always remember where I came from. I'm still that, young man in high school that didn't have an education and had a family that, struggled to make ends meet. And so I think your self-perception from your early years can really inform where you are now, but don't allow that to be a limiting factor in terms of who you are today. Step into that role, and if you're not there today, see yourself as big enough to take on the challenges that you're managing. But, so Juliet Kayyem talked a little bit about a significant crisis. And I know for us, just a few months into office, it was the STEM shooting for me. I was sitting at the head of the conference table. I got a text message from Under Sheriff Kluth that there had been a shooting, and within moments we were ushered out in a vehicle down to the AMC where we did a press conference. I'm a brand new commissioner, and suddenly talking to our entire community about a horrific school shooting. that amazing hero, Kendrick Castillo, continues to be a paragon in our community, and the work that we did to provide resources with the Board of Education to protect kids is something I'm deeply proud of. But Juliet talks a little bit about black swan events. So black swan events are low probability, high consequence events. So a devastating wildfire, a school shooting, a global pandemic, low probability, high consequence. Sadly, I dealt with all those with you, many of you, during my term, but it's hard to get focus on those because they seem unlikely. There's also something called the gray rhino, which is the high probability, high consequence event. So like an economic downturn, inclement winter weather, it's predictable, but it also can be high consequence. So she calls that assuming the boom. And the boom is, bomb cyclone. Boom is school shooting. Boom is we have a massive wildfire like the Marshall Fire. Assume it's going to happen in your roles. There are things you can do left of boom, and there are things you can do right of boom. Left of boom is preparation, having a chief preparedness officer, having a plan in place, having our wildfire plan, having things associated with the global pandemic like PPE stockpiles, and ensuring that we have a plan and a methodology to communicate well effectively. That's left of boom. The first time to exchange business cards is not when a crisis happens, right? It's when you already things are calm. That's why we have a mayor's luncheon every month, and we're able to connect in a positive way because we know the mayors in each municipality. So right of boom, the thing has happened. So the things you need to remember: stop the bleed, avoid the last line of defense, listen to the dead, and narrate your successes in real time. So when you have those losses and those challenges, addressing the bleed immediately and listening to those that unfortunately didn't make it through that process is so absolutely critical. So I know we're limited on time. Juliet Kayyem has so much more on the boom, left of boom, and right of boom, and how to be prepared in the event of a crisis. I know from a county perspective, whether it's wildfires, homelessness, or a future pandemic, we are thinking about those issues very seriously, but I invite you to think about what are the booms that can happen in your life and how can you get ahead of those and then handle them once they occur, because it's not an if, but a when. The final thing I want to share with you is what can leadership and living your purpose look like? So who knows what this is? Yeah. Pete, you want to share any more about what that is?
Well, it's an individual protester facing down the Chinese army who essentially ran him over.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if he's a leader or not, but he helped a lot of people understand what China was and what was going on over there at the time. So he was a very brave individual.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you, you don't have any nut allergies, right? Don't die on me. Okay. One of the best things I learned at my time at Harvard was the fact that we got to be educated by a Dr. Yanli Yang, who was actually at Tiananmen Square and saw a number of his friends and colleagues injured and hurt by the protests and what were happening there. He became a Harvard professor and had a very young family later in life. Decided to go back to San Francisco, where he was from, take care of his young kids, and then realized as a Chinese national that his question zero was the perpetuation of a constitutional republic or a democracy in China. Two different things, but for him, freedom in China was his purpose. And he left his 5-year-old in California and decided to take a plane back to China to do what he could with the leadership there to advance democracy, advance some form of freedom and liberty in that community. The second he landed in China, he was blindfolded, imprisoned, and put in solitary confinement for 6 years. And he ended up 1 or 2 on Amnesty International's list of people, folks were trying to free for asylum. And he talks about being in jail and recognizing that America is the greatest nation on the planet. And that when he was in solitary confinement, he could hear, at night they would turn the lights off, and the people that were imprisoned would say, America, America, USA, USA, come get us, come save us. And they could only say that in the dark, because if the lights came on, they would be beaten, they'd be tortured. But at night, when the lights were off and they were in solitary confinement, they could, in solidarity, talk talk about freedom and talk about America? Well, because of the work of a lot of nonprofits in the United States and frankly, the power of Harvard, they were able to get Dr. Yang freed and brought back. But he talks about how important it was to sacrifice his life for his purpose. And David King talks about that dynamic implementation, that you never know who you're going to meet. And he met John Lee Yang at a retreat in the 90s. And so you might meet somebody that is going to change your life and help you advance your purpose, or maybe you help advance theirs. But it doesn't matter if we do public, private, or nonprofit. All that matters is using your life in service of others. And I'm so thankful that so many of you are here doing that on a regular basis. So we're close on time. We're like 1 minute over. I just want to get to our conclusion. It's a lot. We delved into this intensely in Cambridge, but remember, know why you're here. Keep your leadership from the brink. Have an answer to your question zero. Ensure that what you do matters. Know your power wheel. Get to the balcony of your life. Don't do it alone. Communicate effectively. Align your passion with your purpose. Conduct your course. Distinguish intent versus impact. Stop playing small. Manage crisis. And then live your purpose and let us see what leadership looks like through you. Thank you very much. Here, so if you're really hankering for a candy bar, we have that.